Hello, today I will be explaining my lab project part 3, which is the literature review. So to start with, the article titled Using Selective Behavior Modification Practices to Enhance Reinforcement of Reading Abilities Among Dyslexic Learners in Kenya is the first article I will be starting with. This article found that selective behavior modification strategies could improve reading abilities, specifically in dyslexic learners in Kenya. The researchers implemented reinforcement, prompting, and shaping techniques to increase the individual's performance and engagement. Reinforcement was used to reward correct reading and participation. Prompting was used to motivate individuals to start participating in reading tasks, while shaping was used to increase the difficulty of reading exercises progressively. From this article, I learned that combining reinforcement with prompting and shaping techniques can effectively encourage reading behavior. I can apply these techniques to my own lab project by rewarding myself for completing a reading session using prompts such as scheduled reading times or reminders, and gradually increasing reading duration to build my own habit over time. Eventually, I would start to reward myself when I complete a full day's worth of reading session instead of just one session. This connects directly to my lab project because I'm trying to improve how often and long I read, and I realized that using prompts like scheduled reminders could help me reduce my latency to start reading. I also learned that rewarding myself for completing sessions can strengthen the behavior, and shaping will help me gradually increase my reading duration. My insight from this study is combining these strategies can make both reading more consistent and more enjoyable. The second article is titled How Habits Are Formed, Modeling Habit Formation in the Real World. So for this second article, it analyzed how repeating behaviors in consistent contexts can lead to habit formation. This research article found that the behaviors performed consistently in response to stable cues gradually become automatic. These techniques are highlighted include environmental cues to trigger the behavior and reinforcing repetition until it becomes habitual. Therefore, the article emphasizes that ecological cues are effective with consistency and parallel activity in cues. From this article, I learned that reading behavior is more likely to stick if I link it to consistent environmental cues, such as reading at the same time and place every day. I can apply this to my behavior lab project by establishing a dedicated reading spot, such as my net chair, and pairing it with a daily routine, such as reading before I go to bed and once I get home from work. Also, this article gave me an idea to utilize objects in the environment to cue the reading behavior. So I can put my reading light and book in the net chair when it is time to read there, and then move it to my bed so I can read it right before I go to bed. By establishing a dedicated reading spot and pairing reading with my daily routine, I should make reading an automatic part of my day. This connects directly to my lab project because I'm trying to make reading a regular habit. I plan to use consistent cues like reading in my net chair or before bed, and keeping my book light in those spots as reminders. My takeaway from this study is the structure and environment really matter. By pairing reading with the same time and place every day, it can become something I do automatically rather than something I have to force myself to start. Another article that I have found, it is titled Using Differential Reinforcement to Decrease Academic Response Latencies of an Adolescent with Acquired Brain Injury. So this third article I found studied a 16-year-old adolescent who had suffered from a brain injury and displayed long delays in responding to academic instructions and other tasks. The research study measured latency, or the time it took for the student to begin completing tasks and academic instruction after they were given, which provided them with their baseline data. The behavior modification techniques included reinforcement, utilizing a token system. The student received tokens contingencies on responding with specific latency criteria, and clear contingency rules were provided to the participant who knew exactly what behavior would earn reinforcement. By systematically systematically reinforcing shorter latencies, the researcher was able to shape the students' response patterns. From this article, I learned that behavior modification principles can effectively target latency, not just frequency or duration of the behavior. I could apply this to my reading plan by setting specific criteria for how quickly I begin reading after a cue or scheduled reading time, and then providing a small reward or token when I meet the criteria, such as getting to eat my favorite snack while reading. This approach could help reduce procrastination and establish a quicker initiation of reading. I learned that latency can be measured and shaped through reinforcement. In my own plan, I can set a timer for how quickly I start to read after the cue and reward myself when I meet the goal. This should help me overcome procrastination and start reading more promptly. The last article that I found is titled "Reading as Punishment: A Study of Adolescent Male Reluctant Readers." This article examined how a common classroom practice of using reading as a punishment for misbehavior among adolescent male students. This study focused on how assigning reading tasks as a negative consequence affected students' attitudes towards reading. The findings showed that when the reading was framed as a punishment, students developed negative associations with the activity, often experiencing boredom, resentment, and decreased motivation to read. The behavior modification technique discussed in the study involved using reading as a punishment, meaning students were required to read as a consequence for misbehavior. This negative contingency effectively discouraged behavior, but unintentionally decreased the desired behavior, which was to engage in reading voluntarily and enthusiastically. From this article, I learned that punishment can have unintended effects when used to influence positive behavior like reading. Applying to my own reading plan, I will avoid punishment-based strategies and instead focus on reinforcement and choice, selecting genres that I enjoy and rewarding myself for meeting reading goals. This approach is likely to reduce latency, increase reading frequency, and extend reading durations while maintaining a positive association with the activity. This connects to my own reading project because it reminds me the way I frame reading matters. If I treat reading as something I have to do, it could feel like a punishment and make me avoid it. So I plan to focus on positive and negative reinforcement instead, reading books I actually enjoy and rewarding myself for staying consistent. That way I build positive feelings around reading and make it a behavior that I look forward to.